Welcome back to the Self-Esteem and Confidence Mindset podcast with me, Johnny Pardo. Today, I have my friend Glen on the show with us today, and we're going to be talking more about health and self-confidence. Glen, we welcome you back. So, hey, Glen.
Good to be here, Johnny. Good to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you back again. And obviously, health is something a lot of people could do with, always improving. You can never have it, never get to a point where, it's done and dusted and we've sorted it. It's always an ongoing process. But I know there's a lot, obviously, in, England, in other countries, there's always the challenges. So I'm always looking at ways I can improve my health personally, and it's very, very important, and actually links to our self-confidence, because we don't have the energy, we're not looking after ourselves, that's going to impact on what we can do and therefore how we feel about ourselves. So that's why I really value you coming on today to talk a little bit more about what you do and how you help people. And just to kind of mention again, Glen's been a previous guest where we kind of covered health and self-confidence, but we're going to be talking about his response blueprint a little bit more today, and actually focusing on one particular element of the response blueprint today. So, Glen, I've obviously spoken for a little bit there, but could you give us a quick introduction again to what you do and tell us a little bit about the response blueprint before, just as a quick recap before we go into the R today, the rejuvenation of the response blueprint?
Yeah, thanks, Johnny. So I am a health and high performance coach. I help people through human optimization, lab testing, and lifestyle upgrades to really take their health from where it is to where they want it to be, enabling themselves to provide more money for the people they love and enjoy time with them. And I know you said about health just now, and health's a funny thing, isn't it? Because it's a game with it we're never going to win. Eventually, our health is going to run out. But whilst we've got the chance to actually manage it, I think living at optimal levels, being able to do more and enjoy more of life, that's what we all want. The response blueprint is a proprietary system that I actually invented myself that basically takes into consideration everything that we need to lead a high performance life. And as you correctly said today, it seems right that we start at the beginning with R, which is rejuvenation.
Rejuvenation. Awesome. Yeah. So yeah, there's obviously with response, each letter, that the response blueprint covers a different area of it. So we're going to be starting with the R today, which is rejuvenation. So Glen, can you tell us a little bit about what rejuvenation means for us?
Yeah, so a lot of people, and we will be focusing on this today about the importance of sleep, but rejuvenation is so much more than that. You know, there's a famous saying that you can't pour from an empty cup. And that is so true. In modern lifestyle that we live in now, we are expending so much energy all the time that it's really important that we take the time to fill the cup up and make sure that our energy levels are being replenished.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can't help other people. You can't be your best for others, whether that's close friends and family, or if you're in business, or maybe you're not in business, maybe you're in a career. You can't be your best if you're exhausted. And I've admittedly been a bit knackered recently myself, and I've had to take that time to rest, because we could all get caught in overdoing it a little bit. So yeah, totally know what you mean by you can't pour from an empty or very minimally, if that's a word, filled cup.
Yeah, you can't. You've got to keep yourself topped up, and we all go through it as well. We all go through periods where, maybe we've had deadlines with work and we've had commitments we have to honor, and it just tapers ourselves down. So the rejuvenation is really about understanding that, knowing that we have to take time out, but also things we can do when we have got deadlines, when we have got commitments, how we can support our body and our energy levels.
That's a very, very good point. I love what you said about, taking that time out, but also making sure. So what you're saying is making sure we don't get to a point where it's so depleted we need a massive amount of time out, that we're doing it along the way. We're taking care for ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, a lot of my clients come to me and they are at quite serious stages of fatigue. They are exhausted, they have adrenal fatigue, some issues there. I would much rather see them a lot earlier in the process, where we can actually say, okay, look, you're busy, you've got a lot going on, but let's make sure we can support you so you can keep your high performance up rather than having to build yourself all the way back up again.
Yeah, absolutely. And something that kind of clicked into my mind of being back on the personal power tapes again, Mr. Robbins. But by listening, he said one of the three key things to having a good quality life and delivering what you do. One, energy. Two, energy. And three, energy.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And that's a good mention, actually, because he's just released his new book called Life Force, which I think is going to be an excellent read. I just started it last night, actually. I think it came out 2 days ago.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, and I'm sure that's gonna like me, we're both say we're always like learning and then picking up new bits of information to apply into what we do. So yeah, the expertise you've got in that is it's going to benefit the people you work with even more. So in terms of rejuvenation, so when you talk about sleep a little bit, is sleep something you often have to look at with your clients when they come to you?
It's generally the place I will start.
Mm.
Sleep is so important to building our energy reserves back up. And there's some great tools now with wearable tech where you can get reasonably accurate data on how you're sleeping. And from that, we can use supplements to support sleep. We can use lifestyle to support sleep, to making sure you're really getting the sleep that you need, rather than say generic advice. So the generic advice of you have to be getting 8 hours. Yeah, that would be amazing. It'd be lovely if we could get 8 hours, but modern life, and so many of my clients I know, they just 8 hours just realistically every night is not possible for them. So it's about how do we support their sleep and make sure their sleep is of high quality.
Yeah, not just the quantity, obviously, like a few hours sleep each night. If you kept doing that consistently, most people are going to struggle. There are exceptions, but it's about the quality as well, you're saying, and making sure. And how can we, if someone's listening to this, how can they ensure some basic things to making sure they get some quality sleep?
Sure. I mean, actually, the first place to probably start is in the morning. There's some great research coming out now that's saying that your sleep can be radically improved by getting 10 to 20 minutes of light, from natural light, from the sun. And I know if you're in the UK, like myself and Johnny are, that's not always possible, but just daylight onto your face, into your eyes, first thing in the morning. And if you do that on a consistent basis, that can really help your diurnal rhythm get into place, which is your natural rhythm of sleep. So come the night, you fall into sleep much easier. That's a great place to start. Going to bed and getting up at the same time is another great tip. Again, not something always that's possible every day, but if we can get some kind of routine around that, is going to really, really help. Light stretching before bed is something I often recommend to my clients. Not heavy exercise, but just maybe a light yoga routine, some gentle stretching, just to get into the parasympathetic nervous system, so we move away from that flight and fight response and into more of a relaxed state. We've got meditation, there's breath work, all things to just basically to calm us. So when we actually go to bed, we're not laid in bed thinking about all the things we have to do and our mind's going 100 miles an hour.
Yeah. So yeah, some great ones there. And I guess it depends what works for an individual, might be different what works for another individual as well.
Totally.
Find that?
Yeah. I mean, we are all different, and that comes into the human optimization lab test that I really do invest quite a lot of time in with my clients, where we can look at hormone levels like cortisol, which is the stress hormone, and how that peaks Not to get into too much detail, but there's something called the HPA axis, which is what fires our adrenals to release our stress hormones, cortisol, epinephrine, norepinephrine. And it's those things that if we're out of rhythm, out of the natural rhythm, say if you're waking up at 1 o'clock in the morning and you just can't get back to sleep, there's a good chance there's an imbalance there in your stress hormones and the way that the actual cycle is running.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's fascinating. Some of the testing we can do these days and actually find out some of those factors. I personally use my Sync Tuition app, which is what about kind of the relaxing brain, well, making your brain waves kind of a more kind of like alpha state rather than perhaps the theta state, which is the more kind of fast pace that it's going at. That kind of works quite well for me. But yeah, no, that's quite interesting on the different ways. And the breath work, I like what you said there, because the breath can really change your levels of stress if done consistently as well. So
yeah, and a simple tip there. Yeah, a simple tip there, really, rather than going into complicated breathing exercises, is just to make sure that your exhale is longer than your inhale. So you can just do that with a simple count. You could inhale for like 1, 2, 3, and then exhale for 1, 2, 3, 4. Whatever counts comfortable for you. But so long as the exhale is longer than the inhale, you're going to feel your stress levels come down.
Oh, like that. Yeah. Very simple one, because especially when we're stressed, it's we want things very, very simple because the brain can't really cope with much complicated things.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't want to overwhelm people with too much.
No, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I do a lot of the Wim Hof stuff, which is good and kind of guided, but that's 3 lots of 10 minutes a day, which does play a good impact. But I like what you say, keeping very basics of just the exhalations being longer than the inhalation. So no,
yeah, absolutely.
That's a great one. So with rejuvenation as well. So when people before they, obviously, like you said, you'd like to work with people before they get to that stage of complete exhaustion or burnout, before they come to you. So when you're working with people, I mean, some of the, obviously, like we said again, it depends on the client to client or individual to individual basis for what's best for them. But what are some of the things you would typically look at, like whether they're having days off, or the amount of hours they're working in a day?
Yeah, it's how often they're getting sick, whether they're feeling run down, just talking to them. I will do quite an extensive initial intake with somebody, and it's essentially a conversation with somebody where we'll just go through and I'll find out about their lifestyle, just asking them really high quality questions, finding out about their days, how their days run, or how do you feel at this part of the day? When you wake up in the morning, what's the first things you do? And how do you feel in the mornings? We know this, but this is one of the things that everyone knows and everyone still does, and that's they reach for their phone first thing in the morning. And if you're putting yourself into that constant reactive mode, it's going to be heightening your stress response. So it's just having conversations like that with people, asking them powerful questions and really getting an insight into their life. And then I can really tell, okay, this person there's parts of this day where this person is obviously coming into more stress levels. This is affecting them, because you can just hear from tonality as well. When people are telling you about things, all of a sudden they'll start speaking a lot quicker. And, you realize that part of the day is a part of the day that stresses them out. And then that you can start to bring lifestyle things in. And then obviously what's really important for me is supporting them through high quality supplementation, giving them great quality products to help them with their stress and their sleep and their overall, and then energy boosters to help with like rejuvenating the body.
Yeah, definitely. And there's some lots of good quality supplements out there, but again, like finding what's right for an individual is absolutely key.
It really is key
in terms of that. So one thing I've kind of been reading or recapping a book recently, and it's Willpower Doesn't Work. If you've come across that, and it's all about environmental design a little bit, and making sure that we're kind of setting ourselves up to win basically with our environment, because we only have so much kind of like push before we get burnt out and try to, push through our own resistance and things like that. And then that kind of made me think a little bit when you talked about reaching for the phone, which is a very common one, as you quite rightly said. And I personally make sure I log out of my app so I can't actually get in. Now, WhatsApp's a bit more challenging because you actually have to delete it off your phone. So hopefully I'll have a log out on that one. But my emails, things like that, definitely log out the night before. Even if it takes 5 minutes to log back in, you'll be wasting more than 5 minutes. Put it that way, if you're logged into those things throughout the morning. A couple of hours at least sometimes where people find themselves on the screen time. Is kind of like environmental design and setting up their environment something you look at all? Like make sure they're less stressed in their mornings or in the evenings?
It's such an important factor that actually environment is the E in the response blueprint, and that takes into consideration external and internal environments. So the state, your environment that you put yourself in, it has such a big correlation to how you feel in the day.
Yeah.
So if you can create yourself a space, even if that's your car, if you're commuting to work or the train, like if you can make sure that you can create a space that keeps you in a nice, relaxed state during the day, that's going to really help support you.
Yeah, absolutely. I won't go too much more into the environment. Obviously, I'll save that onto another conversation. But obviously, like all your response blueprints, they do kind of like link with each other.
They all come in. Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they all kind of link together. So like your environment can link to your rejuvenation and then other areas of the response blueprint. So no, I was just interested in that side of things. But coming back to sort of rejuvenation and people recovering on that, do you ever find like someone's been over exercising? Is that something you've come across?
Yeah, very much so.
Interesting.
Exercise is a really
Yeah.
really interesting one, because exercise can be really, really good for rejuvenation and sleep. But if taken too far, then it just depletes us very quickly. And quite often, I'll be, especially my really high performing clients, the ones that are trying to do everything, that are literally, they've got a highly successful job, they've got a family life at home, they're still trying to play like semi-professional level sport at some stage. And the exercise they're putting themselves through, they're doing 6 CrossFit classes a week, let's say. It just takes a toll on the body over time, and eventually it's going to have a negative effect, unfortunately.
No, that's interesting. So yeah, too much of anything can kind of, even though exercise is definitely something we need to be doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, too much of anything, I guess, can.
And it's balancing it, isn't it? It's something really intense like HIIT or CrossFit is great a few times a week, but you need to balance that with maybe some really light yoga,
Yeah.
or just a nice walk or a gentle run. We exercise, again, there's a whole thing there that we should be bringing in, as opposed to just always doing the one exercise all the time.
Yeah. No, that's a true point, because things like yoga can actually help relax. Yeah, that's a physical and mental relaxation in some ways, and some of the breath work you can do. And stretching is obviously good. And you mentioned stretching in terms of before you go to bed as well. It's a really, really useful one. In terms of the mental side, obviously we know too much stress is bad for you, and achieve, especially the achiever mindset. It's like going to keep pushing through this, and that's obviously has a point where you can be exhausted. I've experienced before, and you probably work with many people who've experienced it before. Do you generally advise people to just take a complete now and then a complete day off or a couple of days off a week, where they just disconnect from things, so it allows their mind to catch up. Because I know me, I'm always liking to take on board information, even if it's not stressful. But is that something you find works quite effectively, just kind of disconnecting from any kind of information, or is it just kind of disconnecting from stress?
Yeah, I think it's important. It's something that I do in my day, and you have to find what works for you. So for me personally, it's very important that I get out into nature at least once a week.
Yeah.
And I'll leave the phone in the car or at home, so I'll have no contact. I'll maybe go for a walk with my partner Nicola. We'll just go out into nature, and we'll just try and be present and not, and we're still taking in, but we're taking in from nature. We're taking in from, there's this thing in Japan called forest bathing that's been shown to drastically reduce stress levels. And it doesn't have to be the forest. I think all humans, when we get by the sea, don't we feel our stress levels drop a little bit.
Yeah.
And so any kind of nature really, really helps. So that's my thing. Other people, it could be getting on a motorcycle track on a track day and doing 160 mile an hour around a track. So they just become hyper present in that moment with their surroundings. And that could also just be a great thing to take them out of all the daily things that are into their brain.
Yeah, like it. Yeah, finding what works for you, in terms of day to day, and some I personally quite like listening to an audiobook and going for a walk. That's quite relaxing for me. So, yeah, and in nature, because in central Bristol, luckily, even though it's a very city base, you've actually got quite a lot of nature, in the kind of the woods and things like that, where it's quite soothing. So. Yeah, definitely with you on the whole nature, get out there and chill a little bit.
Yeah. And then just building something in every day. Again, my personal view on this is it's very important to take some time for yourself each and every day. It doesn't have to be long. It can be as short as 5 minutes, but just 5 minutes where you can just sit with yourself. And yeah, meditation's great. And that's usually where people go to, but it doesn't have to be meditation. It could just be sitting by yourself, admiring a view, reading a book, just thinking, but in a nice way, just giving yourself some time to just relax. And again, we're talking about dropping into that parasympathetic nervous state.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I've personally done it and just like sat in silence, and the amount of ideas that sometimes come to you, and you're like, it's just, you can't write it all down. But then I make sure it's like a journal or something rather than the phone, because the temptation is to be like task list, add to that. Then suddenly you're back into the whole work mode thing. So
yeah, before you know it, half an hour's gone by and you've just planned your week out.
yeah, very true. So yeah, I like your advice on the sitting in silence if it's not meditation. It can be meditation if that's what you really enjoy, but just something for you, or maybe even a walk in silence, like we were talking about as well.
Yeah.
Just if you like moving, if you like, you don't like sitting about too long like me.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, Thich Nhat Hanh, who's a very famous monk, he's recently actually just passed. He was very famous for bringing to Western attention, walking meditations, but it doesn't have to be sat in a cave cross-legged. Just going out for a walk and being present on that walk is just as valuable as any other type of meditation.
yeah, no, that's a good one, particularly if you don't like sitting still, just admiring things around you. Just again, making sure you don't at least have your phone switched off, or something like that if you have to take it, but ideally not, just so you can not get caught into work mode again. So, yeah. And now Gabby Bernstein's got who's probably one of my favorite spiritual teachers. She's got a good few walking meditations as well you can do on that. So yeah, she's also got something called Yoga Nidra, which is a sleeping sort of meditation.
Yeah, it's Yoga Nidra. Good one, Johnny. I like that one. That's something that I hadn't thought of, but yeah, that's a really good recommendation. Yoga Nidra is phenomenal for doing before bed. And literally, you're right. Like you say, Gabby Bernstein's got some, but you can literally just YouTube, and there's quite a lot of yoga nidras on there. And it's like a meditation, but it's a physical meditation where you'll focus on different parts of the body and the breath. And, I challenge a lot of people to get through a whole yoga nidra session without nearly falling asleep or falling asleep.
Not done it. But it is relaxing, so it's for me, it's usually hit its purpose on what I was trying to achieve, the relaxation from it. But yeah, it is a very difficult thing to, even if it's the one I've got like 15 minutes, it's difficult for going, oh, I'm asleep. Oh, it's finished. So no, that's cool. So yeah, that's some amazing tips for rejuvenation. Is there anything else you would kind of like add, any final points to our conversation on rejuvenation that perhaps I've not asked or we've not covered today?
Yeah, I would say the only thing really is bringing the energy levels back up. So supporting the body with things like vitamin B, like a comprehensive vitamin B during the day to help energy levels, getting yourself into an energetic state first thing in the morning, whatever that can be. That could be getting outside, it could be cold showers, it could be saunas. There's infrared saunas are fantastic for bringing stress levels down, but then a cold shower in the morning is great for getting energy up. And then probably just supplementation as well. I think there are some certain things that your listeners, if they're struggling to sleep, they could use, which is things like magnesium is a great product for just helping us relax, reduce the stress. Passion flower, ashwagandha, chamomile, valerian root. Then for sleep, there's things like L-theanine, melatonin, 5-HTP, which are just precursors to melatonin, just to help us actually move into a sleep-based state. And that would be my main things. For stress relief, rhodiola, ashwagandha, Chinese skullcap, those three things are really good for just helping reduce stress. But as with anything, I think the greatest factor you're going to get there is to work with a health coach to actually get recommendations from them of what's going to suit you and your personal situation.
Yeah. No, great advice. It's going back to what's specific for you, but we do also have, you've given us some great pointers to kind of getting going on your journey. Well, not your journey, but improving your journey by having more energy, by getting that rejuvenation in. So awesome. So thank you so much, Glenn. Really appreciate you coming on today to share again. And we're talking about having some future episodes to cover more of the response blueprint, all the areas that make up a good quality life with good quality health from tapping in. So we've obviously covered rejuvenation today. So where can people find you, and is there anything else that you have to share on rejuvenation as well?
Yeah, there's a specific guide that I'd actually like to give your listeners, which is my guide to quality sleep. There's some great tips in there that we actually haven't covered today, even about how to improve the quality of your sleep. And I'm sure, Johnny, you'll pop that into the show notes.
Yeah. Awesome. Brilliant. Yeah, we'll be sure to pop in those tips for improving the quality of your sleep. We touched on it obviously briefly, and sleep's a huge thing. And it's a challenge for many people, as we were saying. So that's going to be a really valuable resource. So we'll include those in the description of this episode as well for people to find directly. Awesome, Glenn. And you're on social media as well, aren't you?
I am. If you put in Thrive Through Life in pretty much any platform you desire, you will find a picture of me.
Brilliant. Looking forward to seeing more from you. And I love following your stuff as well, particularly on Instagram and things like that, with all the valuable insights you give people. So Awesome. We'll include those links in the description. So once again, Glenn, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing such value, and look forward to speaking again soon.
Thanks very much, Johnny.
Awesome. So that concludes our episode today. And remember, work on your self-confidence every single day.